June 4th, 2025. What we know of Travis Decker, 32, a former soldier with a history of mental instability. The following is factual news. What news outlets have revealed? The likely cause of death for the three daughters of missing father and of their father, Travis Decker, has been revealed. A massive manhunt is underway for Decker, who sheriff's officials believe murdered the three girls. They are Olivia, 5, Evelyn, 8, and Paitlyn, 9. The girls disappeared after being transferred to their father for a visitation. Decker, who is divorced from the girls' mom Whitney Decker, is at large. He is a native of Pewaukee, WI. The release of the likely cause of death paints a chilling picture of the girls' last moments. Be forewarned that it's very disturbing. There is a GoFundMe page set up to help the girls' mother. There is also a Facebook group devoted to remembering the girls with positive stories. A preliminary report filed with Chelan County Superior Court in Washington State revealed that the three girls appeared to have died from asphyxiation, Fox 13 reported. They were found down an embankment near Rock Island Campground, the site reported. I will not go into the terrible details of their murder. A Facebook group devoted to remembering the girls has many heartfelt tributes to them. The following is a hypothetical and speculative account of Travis's possible mindset. Based on the information gathered about him from various law enforcement agencies and news outlets, Travis Decker, a man whose life seemed to be spiraling into chaos, stood in the quiet solitude of his cramped apartment, the flickering light of the television casting an eerie glow over his face. He was 32 years old, a former Army soldier with years of combat training, and a man caught between two worlds. His sense of identity had been slowly eroded by the collapse of his marriage, the bitterness of a drawn-out custody battle, and an overwhelming sense of inadequacy. Each passing day brought with it the crushing realization that he was losing control of his family, his future, and ultimately his own sense of purpose. The girls were supposed to be with him that weekend, his weekend. He had a chance to reconnect, to make things right, to show them that their father still loved them. But as the hours ticked by on that Friday afternoon, Travis's unease grew. The time he was supposed to have with his daughters felt fleeting, like sand slipping through his fingers. His ex-wife, who had once been his partner, was now his adversary, each legal battle a painful reminder of his failure as a husband and father. Travis couldn't help but think of how things had unraveled. His marriage to Whitney Decker had once been filled with dreams and promises, the kind of plans you make when you're young and hopeful. But somewhere along the way, everything changed. Constant tension, the harsh words, the growing resentment hit all chipped away at their love until there was nothing left. And then there were the kids, the beautiful girls. They were innocent victims of a battle they had no part in. 3 innocent girls with beautiful smiles, beautiful names: Paitlyn, 9, Evelyn, 8, and little Olivia, 5, of Wenatchee, Washington. Travis Decker's psychopathic mindset, the mindset of a self-absorbed killer of his own children, become the mindset of a man obsessively self-absorbed with his own ego, his own self-importance, the crazed, tyrant ego of a man who would do the unthinkable to destroy his own offspring, rather than have his sensitive, selfish ego bruised in losing custody of his children, for in his twisted mind, he was the most important being in his broken family dynamic. There would be no custody battle. Travis unknowingly had degraded mentally into a nefarious mindset reminiscent of the child killer, Chris Watts, who murdered his beautiful daughters, Belle and Celeste, and their beautiful mother, Shannon Watts, to fulfill his own selfish desires as a single man, unburdened with the needs of others, even his own angelic children, who had admired and loved him. Travis did not see their faces, think of their sing-song laughter, their white smiles, their admiration of their daddy, who had struggled to raise them amid his separation from their mother. He saw the girls being weaponized against him. He somehow lost the unconditional love of a father for his daughters. A man's unconditional desire to protect his little girls at any age, 5 or 50. His child's daughters had lost their humanity in Travis's twisted mindset, in the chaos that had destroyed every shred of Travis's sanity as a man, and especially as a father. His daughters became pawns in a game he never agreed to play, a game in which he was always losing. His ex-wife Whitney had been granted full custody after their separation. Travis had fought for years to regain his parental rights, but the system had failed him. In his mind, the courts had sided with her, painted him as a villain when all he wanted was to be a father to his children. In Travis's mind, his rights were limited, visitation was controlled, and each court appearance only served to highlight his failures. The bitterness he felt towards his ex-wife was something he could no longer suppress. It wasn't just the custody battle, it was the way he felt invisible, irrelevant, as if his love for his children meant nothing in the eyes of the world. Within Travis's narcissistic ego, he had become a man trapped in a system that didn't care. His time with the girls had become more about counting the hours than enjoying their company. It was supposed to be a precious gift, but instead it felt like an obligation. Travis had tried to make the best of it, taking them to the park, playing games, even baking cookies together. But as the days wore on, he felt the weight of his resentment towards Whitney growing heavier. Every time he dropped the girls off at her house, he grew more paranoid of never seeing the girls again, of being able to control his own involvement in their lives. The thought of his daughters being taken from him, of never having the chance to truly be their father, led to his frail mind's complete loss of sanity. We can only speculate that Travis believed he was acting not an evil man, but as a man taking his girls away from the system that had failed him, from the woman who had won everything while he was left with nothing. Page 2. The dark need of a twisted ego lost in a dark illusion. It was a Saturday when Travis made the fateful decision. He wasn't thinking clearly. He wasn't thinking at all. The thought of losing his daughters completely, of never being able to see them again, overwhelmed him. The promise of a perfect family, the one that had eluded him for so long, felt within reach. Just one more step, just one more decision.
Oh.
The voices in his head told him he had no choice but to act. The bitterness, the rage, the helplessness, it all merged into a singular feeling of desperate need. Travis packed up his truck, the white GMC Sierra that had become a symbol of his fractured life. It was more than just a vehicle. It represented his last attempt at having some semblance of control, a way to escape the chains of the life he had created. He didn't think about the consequences. He didn't think about the lives that would be shattered, the devastation that would follow. All he could think about was making a choice for himself, a choice that would take him away from the suffocating grip of the custody battle. He could make it work. He could drive away, and the girls would be his, truly his. The reality of what he had done would not sink in until it was too late. For a fleeting moment, he almost believed it could be like it used to be. The girls were happy, innocent, unaware of the storm that had been brewing in their father's heart. He had thought he could leave it all behind. He thought he could erase the mistakes, the failures, and the pain. A small voice in the back of his mind whispered that this wasn't the way. It wasn't too late. He could still fix this. Until the terrible realization of his evil actions gave him a moment of sane clarity. "God forgive me," he whispered through gritted teeth, his voice trembling. "Please, I didn't mean for this to happen. Please, I didn't want to hurt them. I loved them." Tears began to stream down his face as he crumpled to the ground, overwhelmed by the realization of the magnitude of his actions. His daughters would never grow up. They would never get to experience life, or love, or happiness. He had stolen their future from them, and for what? To fix his own broken life? There was no answer, no redemption in the silence, only the lingering horror of what he had done. As the hours passed, the guilt consumed him, his mind racing with the faces of his daughters, their laughter, their innocence. And through it all, John could only pray for forgiveness that he knew he would never find in himself or from society. His actions, he knew, were unforgivable, irredeemable.